In this lecture, we are going to talk about quadratic features. First, we're going to look at the features from a graph. Then, we're going to look at the features from an equation. So the first thing I want to talk about are maximums and minimums. Maximums and minimums are the highest or lowest points of a graph. Looking at the graph here, this point is going to be a minimum. The next thing I want to talk about is the vertex. The vertex is where the graph changes direction. In other words, the maximum or minimum point. So again, the vertex is right here. Now when it asks for the vertex, you actually want to give what the ordered pair is. So in this case, the ordered pair is 1, -4. The next thing we want to look at is going to be called the line of symmetry. The line of symmetry is the line that cuts the graph exactly in half. And that line is going to be right here. Notice that it crossed the graph at x equals 1. So the equation for the line of symmetry is going to be x equals 1. The next thing we're going to focus on is the domain. The domain is the set of all values for the function. The domain focuses on the x-axis. So if you remember, everywhere I draw a line and I extend that line, is it going to hit the graph eventually? So look at my graph here, it's that black line. Pretend that the graph keeps going up. Notice how it goes up at an angle. Eventually, these orange lines are going to hit the graph. Now, that happens every time, so my domain is going to be all real numbers. And that symbol means all real numbers. The last thing that we're going to talk about is called the range. The range is going to be all the y values. So now I'm going to start drawing horizontal lines to cross the y-axis. So if I draw horizontal lines, ask yourself, are you hitting the graph? Well, look what happens right here on this last line. If I go one lower, I'm not going to hit the graph anymore. And that stops at -4. So that means the range, all those red lines greater than -4, as well as equal to. And because we're talking about range, I need to use my y. Next, we're going to find some features from an equation. The first thing I'm going to focus on is my max and min. To find the maximum or minimum from an equation, all you need to do is look at your a value. In this case, my a is going to be equal to +1. Now, because the a is positive, that means my graph is going to be pointed upwards. So if it's pointed upwards, then it has a low point, which means it has a minimum. If the a was negative, then the graph would go down and it would have a maximum point. The next thing we're going to do is find the line of symmetry. In this case, we actually have to do some math because we don't have a graph to look at. To find the line of symmetry, you're going to use the equation x equals -b/2a. Now my b value is going to be 2 from the equation, and my a value is going to be 1 from the equation. So if you plug in the numbers, you get x equals -2 over 2 times 1. And when I simplify this, my line of symmetry is going to be -1. The last feature that we're going to find is called the vertex. The vertex is this point right here. It's going to be the highest or lowest point. we need to find the ordered pair of that. Now I already know my x value, and that's -1. To find the y value, I'm going to use the equation that I have up there and plug in my x's. So I have y equals -1 squared plus 2 times -1 minus 8. When I simplify this, I get y equals 1 minus 2 minus 8. So now I get y equals -9. So that means my vertex is -1, -9.